In this lecture, we'll see the heat transfer again in the radial direction, but in case of a spherical system, in a spherical coordinate system. So, in case of a spherical system, as we know that there are three different coordinates by which a particular point is defined in a spherical coordinates are r, theta, and phi, where this r is the radial direction, where theta is the polar direction, and this phi is the azimuth direction. Now, if we consider that one dimensional heat conduction, and that is in the radial direction, we are assuming that along the theta direction, that means you can consider along the theta direction, there is as if no variation of temperature present, and also you are considering in the azimuth direction, that means you can think like this one, as if along the azimuth direction there is also no variation of temperature. So, only variation of temperature is taking place along the radial direction. Only along the radial direction the temperature is varying. So, if we consider this kind of a situation, and which is in many practical cases are true, in that case we can use this particular form under the consideration 1D steady state, and we are also considering it is without any generation of heat, any generation of energy present within the system, and we are considering steady state. That means with respect to time, temperature is not changing. So, this is what is the general heat conduction equation for a solid substance, and in a spherical coordinate system. So, for a steady state, definitely in the right hand side part is 0. If there is no energy generation term present, then this quantity is 0, and if in the azimuth direction there is no variation, then this quantity is 0, and if in the polar direction there is no variation or no temperature gradient significant, then it is 0. So, the only thing that remains is the component corresponding to the radial direction, and that is 1 by r square ddr k r square dt dr is equal to 0. Since for steady state and the other coordinates are not important, so it is ordinary differential equation. So, next steps are very simple. You can see that this particular quantity is a constant, and if you further consider that k is also a constant, then you can simply find out the temperature field here, as you can see, and for C1 and C2 you have to use the boundary condition. Here the Dirichlet boundary condition has been considered. Okay, so this is what is the basic idea of solving this one, and if you do not want to come to the most general equation as we have not derived it, again you can consider a very small part of it, and you can consider the rate of heat coming in this phase is say QR at the location R, and it is going out, that is QR plus TR. So, definitely what you can write using the Taylor series expansion truncation up to one term. So, you will get that basically QR minus QR plus dr, these are the only E dot in minus E dot out, and that is equal to 0 under the other conditions like steady state and without any heat generation. This is what will be the form of the energy equation, and which ultimately gives you that minus of del del R of QR dr is equal to 0, which basically gives rise to the fact that QR is basically constant. So, here you can also see that we are coming to the same result, that the rate of heat transfer in the radial direction is constant if you apply the energy equation along with these assumptions. So we can use these results, and again we can find out this temperature field as if you write the Fourier's law of heat conduction in case of a spherical coordinate system. As we have already seen, what are the different components. So if you write the Fourier's law of heat conduction in the radial direction, that is QR is equal to minus K into area perpendicular to the direction of the radial heat transfer, and the temperature gradient with R, so dt dr. So this is what is the expression of rate of heat generation using Fourier's law. And in place of area, what we can write 4 pi r square. We can write 4 pi r square. So if you write that, then you see that if you consider K is constant, so already we have seen that QR is constant, so it is clear that r square dt dr, this particular thing will be a constant. Okay, so this is what is the equation that we also got from the general equation. If you see again here, from we are getting the same thing, that r square into dt dr, which is equal to constant. Okay, K if we consider constant, then definitely we will get the same thing. So we are coming to the same differential equation, and by solving this one, by integrating this one, we definitely will get the same thing, that is T is equal to C1 by R with a negative sign plus C2, and then we can solve using the boundary condition. So in this way we can find out the temperature field. The next thing is to find out the rate of heat transfer. What we do, we can directly use these results, or you can put the derivative of the temperature, any one of them. So if QR, which is constant, then what you do, you can see that this 4 pi is taken in the left side just below QR, and r square is also taken in that side with the dr. So it is dr by r square is there in the left hand side, and here the remaining terms are like K and dt. This is the only terms that remains. So K into dt. In general, if you can consider that K is function of temperature, so that function is to be written here, and you can do the integration. Or if you consider K is constant, so K will simply come out of the integration. Okay, so if we consider that K is constant, that means for homogeneous material, then it will come out of the integration. So it will be simply Ts2 minus Ts1 with a negative sign. So this direction will change, Ts1 minus Ts2. If you do this integration, you will get this result. So QR is equal to this quantity. The next step, we can find out what is the thermal resistance, and we know that thermal resistance is nothing but Ts1 minus Ts2 divided by QR. So this quantity is what is the thermal resistance. From this expression of the QR, it is clear that the expression of thermal resistance in case of in the radial direction for a spherical system is 1 by 4 pi K, 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. Remember, here R1 is the inner radius and R2 is the outer radius of the hollow sphere. Now exactly in a similar manner, we can find out the critical radius of insulation. Like if you draw the similar circuit, like initial circuit is for the conduction, and then it is corresponding to the convection. Okay, so if you do the same analysis, then you will find if you find out that DDR of that total resistance, DDR of the total resistance is equal to 0, and that will give rise to the value of the critical radius, because here also you will get that corresponding to the value of the R, this second derivative will be a positive one, that means it's a minima value. So R critical you can find out, and it will be 2K by H if you do the calculation. I am leaving this calculation to you, If you find any problem, definitely we are going to discuss in the interactive session. Okay, so in case of a cylindrical system, we have seen the critical radius of insulation was k by h. In case of spherical system, it is just the double of that, so 2k by h. Now this is very important. Here you can see this is basically the comparison of the three different cases that we have considered. We have applied a one-dimensional steady-state heat conduction equation without any energy generation term in plane wall, in cylindrical wall, and in spherical wall. And what we have observed is here. The observations are very important. First, the form of the heat equation. Here you can see these are the form of the heat equation that we have observed under the assumptions. Then you can see the temperature distribution. So here I want to mention a very important thing, that you observe that temperature distribution in all these examples, as you can see, under this assumption that one dimensional steady state without generation and constant thermal conductivity, that this temperature is not depending on the material property. You see, the temperature is independent of the thermal conductivity. Temperature field is independent of the thermal conductivity. That is a very, very important observation. Definitely this is true only for under this condition, like without energy generation, steady state, okay, 1D, okay. So and constant thermal conductivity. Under these situations, it is observed that temperature field is independent of material property. Like K, it is independent of K. So it is independent of thermal conductivity. So temperature distribution. Regarding the temperature distribution, this is the observation. Now regarding the heat flux, you observe the heat flux values in case of plane wall, in case of cylindrical wall, and in case of spherical wall. You see that in case of a plane wall, since the cross section was not changing, you see that the heat flux is constant throughout. It is not function of x, it is constant. But in case of a cylindrical and spherical wall, as the cross section is continuously changing, see, it is function of r. So heat flux is not constant at every radial position because it is function of r. So heat flux in case of cylindrical and spherical cases are not constant at every r, that is changing. But in case of plane wall, heat flux is constant at every x. At any position, the heat flux is same. But along the radial direction, the heat flux is continuously changing. Rather, heat flux is continuously decreasing as this r is increasing, that you can see. Similarly, in case of a spherical system, okay, this is the second observation. Okay, very, very important observation. Remember, in case of cylindrical and spherical, heat flux is not constant. Rate of heat transfer. See, the expression of rate of heat transfer we have defined, because rate of heat transfer is the expression from where we actually derive the thermal resistances, and that is why this is so important. Okay, so delta T by anything which is basically the resistance. Okay, here, so you can see the resistance here is what? Delta T by L by Ka. So that is what is the resistance, you can see. So here again you can see this is what is the expression of the rate of heat transfer. So delta T by remaining thing, that means this quantity you see is the thermal resistance for the cylindrical system, and here again delta T by the remaining thing, that means this quantity is what is the thermal resistance for the spherical system. Okay, so what is the observation? The important observation is this rate of heat transfer under the assumption 1D steady state without generation and constant thermal conductivity is constant. It is not changing even in case of cylindrical or spherical system from point to point. So Q the rate of heat transfer is constant, because that we observed again and again. If we apply the basic energy equation, we found that this Q was constant along the plane wall along the x direction, or QR was constant along the radial direction. Again and again we have seen this particular thing. If we apply the it is constant. So if we apply the basic conservation of energy, so heat flux is not constant in case of cylindrical and spherical, but rate of heat transfer is constant in all these cases, whether it is cylindrical, spherical or a plane wall. It is all the time constant. Only in case of a plane wall, heat flux and rate of heat transfer both are constant along the x direction. Thermal resistance, you can see, you have to remember these results, final results definitely you have to remember, otherwise for the composite slab or composite systems it is difficult to find out the results. The critical insulation radius, the question of critical insulation radius is not applicable in case of a plane wall. It is definitely, because in case of a plane wall there is no two competing no two opposite effects are there. It is in case of a plane wall, it is clear that if you give any insulation, if you increase the thickness of the insulation, it is definitely will increase the resistance, because this convection area is fixed. As long as the cross section is same, its convection area is same, so that is not changing. So that is why it is clear that there is no existence of either optimal or there is no existence of the critical radius of insulation, critical thickness of insulation. The reason is as simple as that, because the convection area is not changing, so convection resistance is not changing. So it is dictated by the conduction resistance, and conduction resistance increases with the increased value of the thickness. So definitely the question of critical thickness is not coming in case of a plane wall, but definitely in case of a cylindrical wall and in case of a spherical wall, the critical insulation radius is as we have derived is K by H and 2K by H. That you have to remember. So these are the important comparison among these three kinds of problems or the fundamental problems under these specific assumptions that we have dealt with. Now coming to the another relaxation of the assumption. Let us consider a situation now where thermal energy generation is non-zero. So previously we have considered the situations where there is no thermal energy generation term, but if we consider that thermal energy generation term is present, then what will be the temperature field or the rate of heat transfer that we want to see now. So first thing is that what is the thermal energy generation? That means that we have to understand first, and then where in practice these situations occurs we have to see. So thermal energy is being generated or absorbed due to conversion from or to some other energy form. That means it may happen that within that particular solid body it is possible that electrical energy is converted into maybe the heat energy, or maybe some chemical reaction is creating or generating heat energy. Okay, or maybe some chemical reaction is absorbing heat. That happens in case of endothermic reactions if happen. Okay, so these are the situations where it is possible that within the system it is possible that some energy or some heat energy may be either generated or may be absorbed. Okay, so it is very much practical. Some of the examples you can see here. In the first example, it is an example of electrical energy. That is electrical energy means simple the joule heating. Okay, so because of the current carrying, and you know that the joule heating, the that heat is converted as energy, heat energy. So it is the I square into R. So simple the I square R energy per unit time which is generated. That is possible. Here you can see in an electric heater this kind of a system where heat energy is generated within the system. or it can be as a result of deceleration or absorption of neutrons in the fuel element in nuclear reactors. In a fuel element in a nuclear reactor, as you can see here, that basically you know that very high speed neutrons after the fusion reactions, when they are passing through the fuel element or the moderators, they absorbs energy from these neutrons and decelerate it, and again it will help to the chain reaction. So in this way the energy is generated within that fuel rod. Here you can see the fuel rod, and within that fuel rod, since the neutron is absorbed, and because of which the heat energy is generated, and that heat energy is utilized to create maybe the steam or something else in case of nuclear reactors. So here again the situation where the thermal energy is generated within the system, within the fuel rod, you can say, or by chemical reactions like exothermic or endothermic chemical reactions occurs within a medium, that also either absorb or generate thermal energy within a system. So these are the practical situations where this thermal energy generation term may be non-zero. Coming to the mathematics, it is very simple. Here you can see in a plane wall, let us consider a situation of a plane wall, and again we are considering one dimensional situation. That means only in the x direction the rate of heat transfer, which is or the temperature gradient, which is significant. In the other directions it is not. We are again considering the steady state situation. That means with respect to time, everywhere the temperature is same. Okay, but now the only thing that we are considering, this thermal energy generation term is now non-zero term. It is not zero. So definitely in the heat conduction equation, if we see here, you can see that this is a plane wall, where within the plane wall, let us consider uniformly heat is generated throughout the volume. Let us consider throughout the volume heat is generated uniformly, and that rate at which the heat is generated or the energy is generated within the wall, or within the slab, that within the wall, that is considered as Q dot. So remember, this Q dot is the energy that is generated, that is watt, that is generated per unit volume. Remember, this is the unit, okay, unit of Q dot. This is per unit volume. What is the heat generated? This is called volumetric heat generation rate. So that value is Q dot, and if you consider the wall exactly at the midpoint of the wall is origin, that means x is equal to 0, and let us consider this direction is positive x, and this wall, this outer wall is say TS2, which is corresponding to x is equal to plus L, and the other side is exactly at the similar distance, say x is equal to minus L, say the temperature of the wall is TS1. Okay, so if this is the situation, then because of that, what will be the rate of heat generation that we want to see? So here the observation is that if we write the general heat conduction equation for the solid substance, that is within the box you can see, and for the steady state the right hand side part is 0, and for one dimensional assumption the temperature gradient along y and z can be neglected with respect to x direction. So only term that will remain is these quantities. Again, the partial there is no need to write the partial derivative because t is only function of x, but now this quantity will be there, which corresponds to the volumetric rate of heat generation divided by the thermal conductivity, and that is equal to 0. Here also we have considered that thermal conductivity is constant everywhere, that is not changing with x. So now this differential equation, if you integrate twice, it will give rise to this temperature field. And to find out this C1 and C2, these constants, definitely you need the boundary conditions. And again, if we consider the Dirichlet boundary condition, that at x is equal to minus L, the temperature is Ts1, and at x is equal to L, temperature is Ts2. You just simply put it here, you can solve C1 and C2. So these are the values of C1 and C2, and if you finally put the values of C1 and C2 here, you will get this is what is the temperature field. Sorry, this is what is the temperature field that you can find out. Okay. So here you can see the temperature field in case of plane wall. Previously, when we have considered there was no heat generation term, there is no thermal energy generation term, it was a straight line. If you remember, in case of a plane wall, the temperature distribution was a straight line. But now you can see with heat generation, it is no longer a straight line, rather this is like this, and it is given by this formula. Okay, it's a parabolic distribution that you can see. Now see a special case where this Ts1 and Ts2 are not different. If this Ts1 and Ts2, if they are same, and that is equal to Ts, and uniform rate of heat generation throughout the volume, that is Q dot, then you can find the temperature field. If you just put the value of Ts1, Ts2 same, and that is equal to Ts in the previous expression, this was the previous expression. If Ts1, Ts2 are different, if you put Ts1, Ts2 same, this term will actually cancel, because Ts1 minus Ts2 will give rise to 0, and Ts1 plus Ts2 by 2 will give rise to Ts. So your expression now will become this one. So this will be the temperature field now, and this temperature field, if you plot, will be exactly like this, and it will be a symmetric one, because here the boundary conditions, they are symmetric, the temperature Ts, and heat generation is symmetric. So definitely there will be a symmetry with respect to the axial position will be there, and that is also clear from the expression. So this will be the expression of Tx. Now we can find out at x is equal to 0, definitely there the maximum temperature will be there at x is equal to 0, because in all other x's this will actually decrease. It is clear from the diagram. So let us find out the maximum temperature, and say this maximum temperature is T0, which is happening at x is equal to 0. So simply put x is equal to 0, and you can find out what is the maximum temperature T0. So T0 is coming Q dot L square by 2K plus Ts. Okay, so these two expressions are very important, and what we can do now is that from this expression you can write that Tx, that is the at any x, what is the temperature. So T at any x minus Ts, if we write, so if you just take Ts in the left hand side, then it will become this quantity, that is Q dot L square by 2K into 1 minus x square by L square. Now if you see that this quantity QL square, or what you can do instead, you can simply subtract these two. Okay, if you subtract equation 1 and if you subtract equation 2 from equation 1, it will give you T at x minus T0, which is T0, and that is equal to this minus this is equal to this. Ts will cancel, it is clear, Ts will cancel, and what will remain is that Q dot L square divided by 2K, and that will cancel, and into minus of x square by L square. So that will be there. So what we can write is that Tx minus T0 divided by q dot L square divided by 2k with a negative sign is equal to x square by L square. And this quantity, if you see from equation 2, is nothing but Ts minus T0. Ts minus T0. So equation 2 gives that Ts minus T0 is nothing but minus q dot L square by 2k. So you just put this value as Ts minus T0 here, so you will get this final expression. Okay, so here you can see that you can find out the temperature at any position x if you know the central line temperature and the surface temperature and the position where you want to find out the temperature. Okay, so this is a very important relation. Now if we observe carefully, you see that what is the temperature gradient at x is equal to 0. So temperature gradient at x is equal to 0, you can see the slope of the temperature line, temperature field, the slope here is 0. That means the temperature gradient here is 0. If the temperature gradient is 0, if the temperature gradient at that point, that means at x is equal to 0 is 0, which means at this point the heat flux that is transferring this point is 0, because you know that the heat flux is directly proportional to the temperature gradient. So if heat flux is 0, which means that you can think the same situation like in another problem where one end as if is insulated, that means adiabatic, that means there is no heat flux, and you consider there is x direction and here the temperature is Ts. So in that case also the same equation that you have derived for the symmetric situation when Ts1 Ts2 same will be applicable. Okay, so this particular parabolic portion which is applicable in that side will be exactly the same situation. So the problem that we have solved, the symmetric problem that we have solved, the same equation is also applicable for the situation if we consider that one end is insulated and you want to find out temperature at any point. In that case also you can use the same temperature field, because these two situations are exactly similar, because at this point it can be considered as if insulated, because the temperature gradient here is 0, which means there is no heat flux crossing this surface. Okay, so for this particular problem where one end is insulated and if you know the Ts here and you want to find out temperature at any x, so for this problem, but actually you will find that most of the problem it is not known that what is the value of the Ts, rather it is known what is the outside fluid condition, what is the temperature of the air, that is known. If the temperature of the air which is known as T infinity, then we have to find out that at any intermediate point what will be the temperature. If this is the situation, definitely we have to find a relationship between the surface temperature and the air temperature. So to do that we can use this formula, that at this point since this is a surface and surface cannot store any energy, so the rate at which the conduction is taking place here, at the same rate the heat will be conducted. So the heat flux here for the conduction is minus k dt dx according to Fourier's law, but we are interested at x is equal to L, that means at this point, and the same heat will be convected and that is h into Ts minus T infinity. And already you know the temperature field, so you can find out what is dt dx. So just differentiate this one and put x is equal to L. You will get that this relation Ts is equal to T infinity plus Q dot L divided by H. So this is what is the relationship between Ts and T infinity. So you need not to know what is Ts. So if you know this relationship, definitely with the help of T infinity you can find out any intermediate temperature. Just simply put the Ts as this. Or the same thing you can do, instead of considering this, you can also consider the steady state condition, that the heat that is generated here within this volume, the heat that is generated in this volume, since it is in steady state, definitely the same heat is convected to the air. Otherwise definitely the temperature will rise with respect to time. Since it is a steady state condition, the total heat that is generated here is nothing but what? Q dot is per unit volume. So if you consider the length is L, and if you consider the cross sectional area is A, so if you consider this is what is the cross sectional area of the slab, if you consider that is A, so this is what is the volume. So this is what is the total amount of heat that is generated within this material, and the same heat has to go outside through convection, and convective area is this A, and convective heat transfer coefficient is H into Ts minus T infinity. You see again A will cancel and you will get the same relationship between Ts and T infinity. So either you can use this way, or you can use this steady state condition. You will get the same result, or the relationship between Ts and T infinity. Now for the radial system, the problem that we have just done is for the plane wall. Now for the radial system, maybe the heat generation term is present. In that case also we can solve in a similar way, considering only the radial direction temperature gradient is significant. In other polar or the along the axial direction, let us consider this is not significant. So again the problem becomes a one dimensional problem. And if we consider it is a steady state problem, then this right hand side part will not be there in the expression. So what will remain is only this part of the equation. The remaining part is very simple. You just simply integrate this differential equation and you find out the temperature field. To find out the constant, see, this is what is Q dot, the rate of heat generation. You just apply the boundary conditions here. What are the boundary conditions here? Definitely one boundary condition is the outer surface boundary condition, that at R is equal to RO, that is the outer surface area. As you can see here, the outer surface area temperature, if that is Ts, and the along the axial direction there will be a symmetry with respect to the axial direction. So definitely dt dr, or the velocity gradient, temperature gradient at R is equal to 0 is equal to 0. So if you use these two boundary conditions, definitely you can find out what is C1 and C2, and your final temperature field will be this one. Okay, so in this way you can find out the temperature field in case of a radial system for cylindrical. Now after finding out the temperature field completely, exactly in a similar way you can relate it in terms of the central line temperature, that is T0, as we have done in the earlier situation. Just put R is equal to 0 in the expression and find out the expression of T0. So you will get that if you put R is equal to 0, so T0 will become Q dot R0 square by 4K plus Ts. Now you subtract equation 2 from equation 1, and you will get Tr minus Ts. You will get Tr minus Ts divided by here it is from this expression you will get Tr minus Ts. So only consider equation 1 and write what is Tr minus Ts. So it is clear that Tr minus Ts is equal to Q dot R0 square by 4K into 1 minus R square by R0 square. It is from the equation 1. And this value Q dot R square by 4K, this particular value you just put from the equation 2, and that is nothing but T0 minus Ts, because T0 minus Ts is nothing but is equal to this quantity which is coming from equation 2. So you just take it in the left hand side and that will be in the denominator, and you will get this relation. I think it is clear. So both in the radial system and the plane wall case, it is these two expressions are very, very important, and try to practice deriving these expressions. Next, again it is important to relate this Ts, surface temperature, with the T infinity, and you can apply that what I have just told you. The total amount of heat that is generated must be equal to the heat that will be convected out. So here it is the volumetric rate of heat generation multiplied by the volume of the cylinder, that is pi R0 square into L. So that heat must be convected out. So H, heat transfer coefficient, area is 2 pi R0 L, the outside curved surface area, into Ts minus T infinity. If you do that, you will get the relationship between Ts and T infinity. Okay. In the next class, we'll see heat transfer from extended surface.